They sat me at the end of the table, near the kitchen door like I was a stranger in my own home. I had given them everything. My money, my youth, my dreams, and they thanked me by throwing me out the back door. My mother looked me in the eyes and said, "You're embarrassing us, Sarah, just leave quietly." So I did. But before the sun came up the next morning, I had something they never expected. And by breakfast, they had nothing left. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and if you're hearing my voice, I want you to understand something before I tell you what I did. I was not a troublemaker. I was not a failure. I was the daughter who paid the bills. I was the sister who sent money for tuition. I was the one who worked 16-hour days so that my family could live in a big white house with a circular driveway and a chandelier in the foyer. And they thanked me by lying to my face, using me like an ATM, and throwing me out the back door at a dinner party like I was garbage. This is the story of how my family deceived me, how they kicked me out on a Tuesday night, and how by Wednesday morning they had nothing left. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and I was the forgotten provider of the Mitchell family. We lived in a big white house in Greenwich, Connecticut. It was beautiful, too beautiful for people who didn't earn it. My father, Richard Mitchell, had been a real estate developer once, but he made bad bets and lost most of his money when I was 16. After that, he sat in his study and pretended to work. He wore expensive suits and made phone calls that never led anywhere. He was a ghost in his own life, shuffling papers and drinking whiskey, waiting for a miracle that never came. My mother, Eleanor Mitchell, had never worked a day in her life. She grew up rich, married rich, and expected to stay rich. She spent money like it grew on trees. Every week, a new package arrived on the doorstep: designer shoes, handbags, scarves that cost more than a car payment. She would unwrap them slowly, lovingly, like they were her children. In a way, they were. She loved things more than she loved people. My older sister, Victoria, was 25 and had never held a job for more than 3 months. She said she was finding herself. What she was really finding was new ways to spend money she didn't have. She went to brunches and spas and weekend trips to the Hamptons. She posted photos on Instagram of her blessed life, while I worked double shifts and fell into bed with aching feet. My younger brother, Benjamin, was 20 and in his 3rd year of community college because he failed most of his classes. He said school was boring. He said the teachers didn't understand him. He said he was going to be an entrepreneur. But an entrepreneur, I learned, was just a fancy word for someone who asks family for money and never pays it back. And then there was me, Sarah, the middle child, the one who dropped out of college at 19 to work full-time because someone had to keep the lights on. I didn't mind at first. I loved my family. I thought they loved me too. I remember being a little girl, maybe 7 years old, sitting on my father's lap while he read me stories. I remember my mother brushing my hair and telling me I was pretty. I remember Victoria and Benjamin laughing with me in the backyard on summer evenings. Those memories kept me going for years. They were the fuel I burned to keep working, to keep sending money, to keep believing that somewhere underneath the lies and the selfishness, my family still loved me. I started working at 15, a part-time job at a grocery store, bagging groceries for minimum wage. I gave half my paycheck to my parents. They didn't ask, I just offered. I wanted to help. By 17, I was working 2 jobs. By 19, I had dropped out of college and was working full-time at a diner, then a call center, then a small tech firm where I taught myself coding at night. I remember the first time I paid the mortgage. I was 20 years old. My father came to me with his head down, his voice shaking. He said the bank was going to take the house. He said he had made some bad investments. He said he was sorry. I looked at this man, this giant who had once seemed invincible, and I saw a scared old man. I wrote him a check for $12,000. It was every penny I had saved since I was 15. He cried. He hugged me. He said, "You're my hero, Sarah." I believed him. I was his hero. I was saving the family. I was the one who would be remembered as the daughter who held everything together. That was the lie I told myself for the next 3 years. Every month, I transferred money to my parents' account. $5,000, then 6, then 8. I lived in a tiny studio apartment above a pizza shop in Stamford. The apartment had one window that faced a brick wall. The heat didn't work in winter. The air conditioning didn't work in summer. The pizza smell seeped through the walls and clung to my clothes. I drove a used Honda Civic with a dent in the door and a check engine light that had been on for 2 years. I ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches so that my family could eat steak and lobster. I told myself it was worth it. I told myself they were grateful. I told myself that one day they would see me, really see me. And they would say, "Thank you, Sarah, we couldn't have done it without you." That day never came. The deception started small. A little lie here, a little lie there. My mother would call and say, "Sarah, your father's business deal fell through. We need an extra $2,000 this month." I would send it. Later, I found out there was no business deal. She used the money to buy a designer handbag. I saw it on her arm at Thanksgiving. I asked her about it. She said, "Oh, this old thing, it was on sale." It was not on sale. It cost $3,000. My sister would say, "Sarah, I have a job interview and I need a new suit. Can you send me $500? I would send it. She used it to go to a spa weekend with her friends. I saw the photos on Instagram. She was drinking mimosas in a fluffy white robe. The caption said, "Treat yourself." I was eating cold pizza for breakfast. My brother would say, "Sarah, I need a new laptop for school. Mine broke." I would send $1,000. He bought a gaming console. I found out when I visited the house and saw him playing video games in the living room. The new laptop was nowhere to be found. When I asked, he said, "Oh, I returned it. The model was defective." He didn't return it. He never bought it. I knew. Part of me always knew, but I didn't want to believe it. Because if I believed it, that meant my family didn't love me. That meant I was just a wallet with legs, and that truth was too heavy to carry, so I carried the lies instead. I carried them everywhere. To work, to my empty apartment, to bed at night where I would lie awake and stare at the ceiling and tell myself, "They love me, they just don't know how to show it." The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I had just worked a 14-hour day. A big project was due. My boss had been breathing down my neck for weeks. My eyes burned from staring at a computer screen. My back ached from sitting in a cheap office chair. I had not eaten a real meal in 2 days. I was running on coffee and adrenaline and the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, I could take a day off next week. I got a call from my mother. Her voice was sweet, the way it only got when she wanted something. "Sarah, darling, we're having a dinner party tonight. Important people. Your father's new business partners. We need you to come, and please, dress nicely." I told her I was tired. I told her I had work early the next day. I told her I didn't have a nice dress. She said, "Sarah, family comes first, you know that." Family comes first? Those words, they had been my leash for years. Every time I wanted to say no, those words pulled me back. Family comes first. But when did my family ever put me first? When did they ever ask what I needed? When did they ever stay up late worrying about me? I said yes anyway. I borrowed a dress from a coworker named Lisa. It was navy blue, simple, elegant. Lisa asked where I was going. I said a family dinner. She said, "That sounds nice." I didn't have the heart to tell her that family dinners were not nice for me. They were performances. Auditions for a role I would never get. I drove an hour through traffic to the big White House. The sun was setting. The house glowed gold and orange. It looked like something from a movie. A perfect family in a perfect house. I parked my dented Honda on the street because the circular driveway was full of luxury cars. Mercedes, BMW, a Tesla. I walked up the steps. The front door was open. I could hear music and laughter inside. Maria, the housekeeper, met me at the door. She had been with our family since I was a child. She was the only one who ever looked at me with kindness. "Miss Sarah," she said softly, "you look beautiful tonight." I thanked her. She hesitated, then added, "Be careful tonight. There is something in the air." I didn't know what she meant. Not then. The dinner party was in full swing. Crystal glasses clinking, silver platters being carried by hired servers, a string quartet playing in the corner. My mother was wearing a gold dress that shimmered under the chandelier. My father was laughing with a man in an expensive suit. Victoria was showing off her new diamond necklace to a group of women. Benjamin was standing by the fireplace, holding a glass of champagne, telling a story that made everyone laugh. I walked in. No one greeted me. I stood by the doorway for a full minute before my mother glanced in my direction. "Oh, Sarah, you're here. Good, sit over there." She pointed to the end of the table, near the kitchen door, the seat they always gave me. the seat for the person who didn't quite belong. I sat down. A server poured me a glass of wine. I didn't drink it, I just watched. I watched my father charm his guests. I watched my mother play the perfect hostess. I watched Victoria tilt her head just so, showing off her necklace. I watched Benjamin gesture with his hands, pretending to be important. And I thought, I paid for this. Every crystal glass, every silver platter, every note from that string quartet. I paid for it all, and no one here knows. No one here cares. Dinner was served. 7 courses. Soup, salad, fish, sorbet, steak, cheese, dessert. The food was beautiful. I couldn't taste any of it. My stomach was in knots. The conversation drifted from stocks to real estate to vacation homes. Mr. Harrison, the man in the expensive suit, talked about his yacht. Mrs. Harrison talked about their daughter's wedding. Everyone laughed at the right moments. Everyone smiled the right smiles. Then Mr. Harrison looked at me. He had kind eyes, the kind of eyes that actually saw people. "And what do you do, young lady?" I opened my mouth to answer, but my mother spoke first. "Oh, Sarah is our daughter. She's between things right now, very artistic. You know how creative types are." Between things? I was not between things. I was a software developer. I made $80,000 a year. I paid the mortgage. I kept the lights on. I was the only reason any of them were sitting at this table, and my mother had just introduced me as between things. I looked at my father. He nodded along, like what she said was true. I looked at Victoria. She smiled, a tight, fake smile. I looked at Benjamin. He was texting under the table. No one corrected her. No one said, "Actually, Sarah is a successful software developer. She pays our mortgage. She buys our food. She keeps us afloat." I sat there in silence. The rest of the dinner passed in a blur. I don't remember what they talked about. I don't remember the jokes or the stories or the toasts. I just remember the cold feeling spreading through my chest, like someone had poured ice water into my veins. I remember thinking, they are ashamed of me. After everything I have done, they are ashamed. After dessert, my mother pulled me aside. She took me into the pantry, the same small room with shelves of canned goods and boxes of pasta. The room smelled like garlic and old paper. She closed the door. Her smile was gone. Her eyes were hard. She looked at me like I was a problem to be solved. "Sarah, we need to talk," she said. "I know," I said. "I heard what you said at dinner. Why did you lie? Why did you tell them I was between things?" My mother sighed, like I was being difficult, like I was a child asking for something unreasonable. "Because it's embarrassing, Sarah. You're a coder. You work at a desk. That's not something we can brag about at dinner parties. Victoria is engaged to a hedge fund manager. Benjamin is starting a business. Your father is making deals. And you sit in front of a computer all day. It's not impressive." I stared at her. The words didn't make sense. They bounced off my brain like stones off a wall. "I pay for this house," I said slowly. "I pay for your clothes. I pay for Victoria's jewelry. I pay for Benjamin's tuition. I pay for everything. And you're embarrassed of me?" She waved her hand like she was shooing a fly. "Money isn't everything, Sarah. It's about image. It's about who you are. And you, dear, are not the kind of daughter we can show off. You're quiet, you're awkward, you don't know how to talk to people, you don't know how to dress, you don't fit in." Her words were knives. Each one slid between my ribs. "I don't fit in because I'm working," I said. "I don't have time to learn how to dress because I'm paying for your dresses." My mother's eyes turned to ice. "Don't be dramatic. You gave us money." "Yes, but that was your choice. We never asked you to, we never forced you. You chose to drop out of college. You chose to work those jobs. You chose to send those checks. That was your decision. Don't blame us for your choices." I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "You never asked me to. You called me every week. You told me the mortgage was due. You told me Benjamin needed tuition. You told me Victoria needed help. You asked me over and over and over." "We asked," she said coldly. "But you could have said no. You didn't. That's on you." I looked at her. This woman who had given birth to me. This woman who had brushed my hair and read me stories and told me I was pretty. She was a stranger now. Or maybe she had always been a stranger, and I had just refused to see it. "Tonight," my mother continued, "we've decided it's best if you keep your distance for a while. We're rebranding the family. New image, new connections, and you don't fit, so we're asking you to leave. Tonight. Quietly, go out the back door. Don't say goodbye to the guests, just go." "You're kicking me out," I whispered. I pay for this house. I have a right to be here. You don't have any rights, Sarah. Not anymore. Now please leave before you make a scene. The Harrisons are important. Don't ruin this for your father. She opened the pantry door and walked away. Her heels clicked on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed in my ears long after she was gone. I stood there for a long moment. The pantry smelled like garlic and old paper and betrayal. I looked at the shelves. I had bought those canned goods. I had paid for that pasta. Every single thing in that house I had paid for, and they were throwing me out like a stray dog. I walked through the kitchen. Maria was washing dishes. She looked at me with sad eyes. Tears were streaming down her face. "Miss Sarah," she whispered, "I heard everything. I'm so sorry. You don't deserve this." I didn't say anything. What was there to say? I walked out the back door into the cold Connecticut night. The air was sharp and clean. The sky was full of stars. I stood on the back porch for a moment, breathing. Then I walked to my car. My dented Honda with the check engine light. My only home now. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time. The big white house glowed behind me. I could hear laughter from inside. They were probably already telling a joke. Already forgetting me. I was not a person to them. I was a loose thread, and they had cut me off. That night I didn't go home. I couldn't face my empty apartment. I drove to a diner on the edge of town. A 24-hour place with cracked vinyl booths and a jukebox that played old songs. I sat in a booth and ordered a cup of coffee. It went cold. I ordered another. It went cold too. I sat there until the sun came up. I thought about everything. The years of working, the years of sending money, the years of telling myself that my family loved me, and I realized the truth. They had never loved me. They had used me. They had deceived me. Every "we need money" was a lie. Every "thank you, Sarah" was a performance. I was not a daughter to them. I was a source. And when they decided they didn't need me anymore, they cut me loose. But here's the thing about cutting someone loose. Sometimes they take the rope with them. I didn't sleep that night. I went back to my studio apartment as the sun was rising. The pizza smell was thick in the air. I sat at my computer. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. I had skills. Coding skills, research skills, and I had access. Because for years, my family had been careless. They had used my computer to check their emails. They had saved passwords on my laptop. They had shared bank account logins with me because I was the one who transferred the money. They thought I was just a tool. They forgot that tools can be turned around. I started with my father. Richard Mitchell had not lost his money years ago because of bad bets. I had always suspected there was more to the story. Now I had time to dig. I found an old email from his former business partner, a man named Carl Simmons. The email was short. "Richard, if you don't pay back the $2 million by Friday, I'm going to the authorities." $2 million? I had never heard of $2 million. I dug deeper. What I found made my stomach turn. My father had been embezzling from his own company for years. He had a secret account in the Cayman Islands. He had been stealing from investors, from partners, from friends. When the company started to collapse, he took the last $2 million and ran. He left everyone else holding the debt. Carl Simmons had lost his house. Another investor had lost his retirement. 3 families had gone bankrupt because of my father, and my father had used my money to cover the gaps. The mortgage payments I sent, the business expenses, the emergency funds. He had funneled my hard-earned money into his secret account, hiding the evidence, buying himself time. I was not helping my family. I was helping a criminal hide his crimes. I found everything. Bank statements, transfer records, encrypted files that I cracked because I was a coder and he was an amateur. Emails that showed exactly how much he had stolen and from whom. By 3 a.m., I had a complete dossier on my father's crimes. It was over 300 pages long. Then I moved to my mother. Alina Mitchell ran charity galas. She had been doing it for years. The galas were beautiful events, expensive venues, famous speakers, rich donors writing big checks, but the charities were fake. I found the records in a file cabinet behind her painting easel. She thought no one knew the combination, but I had watched her open it 100 times. 1 minus, 2 minus, 3 minus 4. She was not as clever as she thought. The records showed everything. She would collect donations, skim 70% off the top, and donate the rest to a real charity to keep up appearances. The skimmed money went into a private account under a fake name. Over 5 years, she had stolen nearly $3 million. $3 million that was supposed to help sick children, homeless families, hungry seniors. Instead, it bought her designer handbags and gold dresses and a chandelier in the foyer. By 4 a.m., I had my mother's fraud documented. Every fake gala, every stolen donation, every lie she had told to the donors who trusted her. Then Victoria, my perfect sister. Her hedge fund fiancé, Chad, was not rich. I had always suspected something was off. Now I found the proof. Chad's hedge fund was losing money, millions of dollars. He was using new investments to pay off old losses, a classic Ponzi scheme, and Victoria knew. She had been helping him. The text messages between them were sickening. "Chad, my parents are asking for proof of your assets. Can you send me something fake?" "Already done, babe. I'll email you a forged statement." "Perfect. My sister Sarah is sending another $5,000 this week. I'll add it to your account." "Love you, you're the best." The diamond necklace she was wearing was not real. It was cubic zirconia. I found the receipt in her bedroom drawer. She had bought it from a costume jewelry store for $40. The engagement was a lie to impress my parents so they would keep giving her money. Victoria and Chad had a plan. Get married, get access to the family funds, and then disappear. They didn't care who they hurt. They didn't care about me. I was just a source. By 5 a.m., I had Victoria's deception. Every text, every forged document, every lie. Then Benjamin, my little brother, the golden boy, the one who could do no wrong. He wasn't in community college anymore. He had been expelled 6 months ago for cheating on a final exam. He had paid someone to take the test for him. The professor found out. Benjamin was expelled. He didn't tell anyone. He kept taking the tuition money I sent and used it to pay for a luxury apartment and a new car. A BMW. He was driving a BMW while I drove a Honda with a dent in the door. I found his eviction notice in an old email. He had stopped paying rent on the luxury apartment 2 months ago. The landlord was taking him to court. I found the car loan. He had financed the BMW for $60,000. He had made 2 payments and then stopped. The bank was repossessing it. I found the letter of expulsion from the college. It was dated 6 months ago. 6 months of lies. 6 months of stolen tuition money. By 6 a.m., I had Benjamin's lies, every fake receipt, every eviction notice, every letter. The sun was rising over Stamford. I sat in my studio apartment, surrounded by evidence. My computer screen glowed with the destruction of my family. I had everything I needed to ruin them, every crime, every lie, every deception. And I had a choice. I could walk away. I could keep the evidence and do nothing. I could move to another city, change my name, and try to forget. Or I could light the match. I thought about the pantry. I thought about my mother's cold eyes. I thought about my father nodding along at the dinner table. I thought about Victoria's fake smile and her cubic zirconia necklace. I thought about Benjamin texting under the table while I sat alone. I thought about every dollar I had sent. Every night I had gone to bed hungry so they could eat steak. Every time I had told myself, they love me, they just don't know how to show it. I thought about Carl Simmons, who lost his house because of my father. I thought about the sick children who never got the donations my mother stole. I thought about the investors who went bankrupt. I thought about the professor who caught Benjamin cheating and was ignored. I thought about all the people my family had hurt, not just me, and I lit the match. At 7 a.m., I sent an anonymous email to the FBI. Attached was my father's dossier: tax evasion, embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering. The evidence was undeniable. I included the names of his victims: Carl Simmons, the 3 families who went bankrupt, everyone. At 8 a.m., I sent an anonymous email to the IRS. Attached was my mother's charity fraud records, every fake gala, every skimmed donation, every offshore account. I included the names of the real charities that had been cheated. At 9 a.m., I sent an anonymous email to Chad's boss at the hedge fund. Attached were the text messages between Chad and Victoria, showing their plan to defraud my family. I also sent Victoria's fake diamond receipt to every gossip columnist in New York. And I sent the forged asset statements to the SEC. At 10 a.m., I sent an anonymous tip to Benjamin's former college, exposing that he had been using stolen tuition money for personal expenses. I also sent his expulsion letter to my parents' email address, along with the eviction notice and the car loan. I added a note: "Your son is not the golden boy you think he is." Then I waited. By 11 a.m., my phone was ringing. My mother, I didn't answer. My father, I didn't answer. Victoria, Benjamin, Chad. My phone buzzed so many times it vibrated off the table. I let it ring. I sat on my couch with my dog, a little terrier mix I had rescued from the shelter, and I watched the news. By noon, the first story broke: Greenwich real estate developer arrested for embezzlement. The news choppers were flying over the big white house. My father's face was on every screen. He was taken out of the house in handcuffs. The reporters filmed everything. My mother was screaming on the front lawn. Victoria was hiding her face behind her hands. Benjamin was trying to push a camera away. It was chaos. Beautiful, terrible chaos. By 1 p.m., the second story broke: charity organizer arrested for fraud. My mother's face replaced my father's on the screen. She was taken away in a separate car. She was crying. Her gold dress was wrinkled. Her perfect hair was a mess. She looked old. She looked broken. She looked like someone I didn't recognize. By 2 p.m., the FBI had seized the house. The big white house with the circular driveway and the chandelier in the foyer. The house I had paid for. The house they had kicked me out of. It was gone, locked up with yellow tape. The news showed the doors being sealed. The windows were dark. The house that had once glowed with light and laughter was now a crime scene. By 3 p.m., the third story broke: hedge fund manager charged with fraud. Chad's face was on the screen. He was arrested at his office. Victoria was with him. She was not arrested, but she was questioned for hours. Her engagement was over. Chad didn't even look at her when they took him away. She stood on the sidewalk, alone, in her cubic zirconia necklace, and cried. By 4 p.m., the fourth story broke: college expulsion cover-up exposed. Benjamin's face was on the screen. He was not arrested, but his reputation was destroyed. The college released a statement confirming that he had been expelled for cheating. The news showed him getting into his BMW. The car was repossessed the next day. He had nowhere to go, no one to call. By 5 p.m., the big white house was empty. My mother was in custody. My father was in custody. Victoria was staying at a motel. Benjamin was sleeping in his car. The Mitchell family, the perfect family, was gone. In less than 24 hours, they had lost everything. And me, I sat in my studio apartment above the pizza shop. I watched it all on TV. I watched my family fall apart. I should have felt satisfied. I had won. I had taken from them what they had taken from me, but I didn't feel satisfied. I felt cold. I felt empty. I felt like I had eaten a meal made of glass. The days that followed were strange. The news cycle moved on. New scandals replaced old ones, but for me, time stood still. I stopped going to work. I stopped answering calls. I just sat in my apartment, staring at the wall, holding my dog. The pizza smell seeped through the walls. The check engine light on my car blinked in the parking lot. Everything was the same, but everything was different. A week later, my mother called me from jail. Collect. I accepted the call. "Sarah," she said. Her voice was raw, hoarse, like she had been screaming. "Was it you?" "Yes," I said. "It was me." She was silent for a long time. I could hear her breathing, shallow, ragged breaths. Then she said, "We needed you. We loved you. How could you do this to family?" I laughed. It was a dry, hollow sound. "You didn't love me. You used me. You lied to me. You took my money for years and then you threw me out the back door because I was embarrassing. You never saw me as family. You saw me as an ATM. And when you thought you didn't need me anymore, you kicked me to the curb." "We made mistakes," she said. "But this is monstrous. You destroyed us, your own family." "You destroyed yourselves," I said. "I just showed everyone what you really are." There was another long silence. Then my mother said something that I will never forget. "You know, Sarah, you were always the strong one, the smart one, the one who could survive anything. That's why we did what we did. We knew you could handle it. Victoria couldn't. Benjamin couldn't, but you were different. You were tough. So we leaned on you, maybe too much. But that's not hate, Sarah. That's trust. We trusted you to hold us up." I didn't know what to say. Was she trying to make me feel guilty? Was she telling the truth? I hung up. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anything. That was the scariest part. The emptiness. The FBI traced the anonymous emails back to me after 3 months. I didn't run, I didn't hide. When they knocked on my door, I opened it and said, "I've been expecting you." They were kind. Professional, they asked me to come with them. I went. I was charged with unauthorized access of private documents and computer fraud. I pleaded guilty. I didn't fight it. I didn't make excuses. I just said, I did it. I'm sorry. The judge was a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She read my file. She read about what my family had done to me. She read about the money I had sent, the years I had worked, the pantry, the dinner party. She looked at me over her glasses and said, "Miss Mitchell, you have been wronged, terribly wronged. But 2 wrongs do not make a right. You took the law into your own hands. That is not justice. That is revenge. And revenge helps no one, least of all the person seeking it." She gave me 3 years of probation and 1,000 hours of community service. She said she was being lenient because I had exposed real crimes and because I had shown genuine remorse. But she also said, "You need to heal, Miss Mitchell, and you can't heal if you're holding on to anger. Let it go, for your own sake." I served my probation. I did my community service. I worked at a food bank and helped homeless families find shelter. I tutored kids in coding. I volunteered at an animal shelter. I tried to be useful. I tried to be good, but the emptiness stayed. It was a hole in my chest that nothing could fill. My father was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. My mother got 3 years for fraud. She served 18 months and was released. Victoria works as a cashier at a grocery store in Florida. She doesn't talk to anyone in the family. Benjamin lives in a shelter. He is trying to get clean. He developed a drug problem after everything fell apart. I don't know if he will make it. They don't talk to each other. They don't talk to me. The Mitchell family, the perfect family, is scattered like ashes in the wind. I live in a small town in Vermont now. I have a job as a software developer for a nonprofit that helps abused children. I have a small house with a garden. I have my dog, Max, who is old and gray now. I have no family. I have no revenge left to take. And I have learned something that took me 22 years of giving and 1 night of destroying to understand. When you give and give and give to people who don't appreciate you, you are not loving them. You are enabling them. And when you finally stop giving, they will show you who they really are. My family showed me who they were in that pantry. They were not grateful. They were not loving. They were users, and I should have walked away then. I should have kept my evidence and just left. I should have moved to another state, changed my number, and never looked back. That would have been the healthy thing. That would have been the strong thing. But I didn't. I chose revenge. And revenge did not heal me. It did not fill the hole. It just made the hole bigger. Because now, on top of the pain of being used and discarded, I carry the weight of what I did. I destroyed my family. They deserved consequences. But did they deserve everything? Did they deserve to lose their freedom, their home, their future? Did Benjamin deserve to live in a shelter because he was a lazy, lying kid? Did my mother deserve to go to prison because she was selfish and cruel? I don't know. I wrestle with that question every day. Some nights, I wake up at 3 a.m. and see my mother's face in the pantry. I hear her voice. "You could have said no, you didn't, that's on you." And I wonder if she was right. I wonder if I am the one to blame. I could have said no. I could have stopped sending money. I could have walked away years ago. But I didn't. I kept hoping. I kept believing. And when the hope finally died, I turned into something worse than them. I turned into a destroyer. The lesson is this. If someone hurts you, if someone uses you, if someone throws you away like garbage, you have the right to walk away. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to never speak to them again. But you do not have the right to become the destroyer. Because once you become the destroyer, you lose the moral high ground. You become just as bad as they are. And you will carry that with you forever. I am still learning to fill the hole. Some days, I think I'm making progress. I help a child at work. I plant flowers in my garden. I take Max for a long walk in the woods. I feel almost normal. Almost human. Then something reminds me of the big white house and the hole opens up again. I don't think it will ever fully close. I have to learn to live with it. My name is Sarah Mitchell. I was a daughter. I was a provider. I was a victim of deception. And then I became an avenger. And then I became empty. I am not proud of what I did, but I am telling you this story so that you don't make the same mistake. If you are supporting people who don't appreciate you, stop. Just stop. Close the wallet, walk out the door, and don't look back. That is not revenge, that is self-respect. And self-respect is the only thing that will ever fill the hole. Please don't be like me, be better. Be the one who walks away. That is the strongest thing you will ever do. My name is Sarah Mitchell. And this is my story. I hope it saves someone. I hope it saves you.